watching the Mystical Green Beanie.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and we are officially at the halfway point for Batman White Knight. Now, before I go any further, I want to give a quick spoiler warning. If you haven't read the first 4 issues, I highly recommend that you do so, but if you haven't and you're still here, well, then you know exactly what you're in for. So, I've already reviewed the first issue. I really liked it. I thought it was interesting. I had some problems with it, and I'll get in that in the video. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this review. And first off, I really want to get into the characters that have been established in this Elseworlds alternate universe story so far, and how they might differ from the main DC universe, and what their motivations are and whatnot. So starting off with the title character of Batman, let's talk about Bruce Wayne. As I mentioned in my review for the first issue, Sean Murphy's Bruce Wayne is very much the Bruce Wayne of Batman the Animated Series, specifically Season 4. And what I find so fascinating about this story so far is that Murphy is deconstructing this version of Bruce Wayne and showing the reader what it looks like when he's taken over the edge. And we've seen this done before with other versions of Batman in the comics, but what I find so unique about this case is that I've always seen the Batman from the animated series as a different take on Bruce Wayne. He's very removed from humanity in a way that Bruce Wayne in the comics isn't, and seeing this version of Bruce get run through the ringer like he is very interesting. Between the political unrest that the Joker has caused by reverting to his Jack Napier persona and addressing concerns that he has about Batman's impact on the city fiscally and legally, and Alfred getting sick and eventually dying, we see Bruce almost devolve into a brutish, less than human creature, which really adds a lot of weight to that opening for the first issue, where Jack Napier has Batman locked in Arkham like some savage beast. And I love how he's wearing the Batsuit in that encounter too. It really feels like Murphy's taking that age-old idea of Bruce wanting the criminals of Gotham to see Batman as a monster and turning it on its ear by having Jack Napier, who is the Joker, now being an elected councilman of Gotham, having Batman locked in a cage. Then there's the Joker. Or Jack Napier, much rather. Now, I had some problems with this interpretation of the Joker upon reading the first issue. For starters, I was not a fan of how Murphy was implying that the Joker is seen as the most violent and horrifying villain in Gotham, yet, according to Napier, he never actually killed anyone. But then I come to find out that that's the point, so I'm an idiot. He was just a very eccentric bank robber who was doing this whole Joker bit for attention, but then things kind of spiraled out of control once the GCPD started falsifying police reports, making him out to be a bigger threat than he actually was. Almost like some big bad boogeyman. And now, in this age of distrust that the people have against the police force, the Joker is taking advantage of that frailty of trust and turning the city against Batman and the GCPD with the law. And I love that idea because of how meta it is. And that leads me to my next big point, which is, I don't know if Napier is an alternate personality or if the Joker is putting on a big show, because there are moments in this series where he claims that the Joker was just a part of his psychosis, but then there are other moments where Napier will use methods that only the Joker would use. For example, in the beginning of the book, Joker claims that if he wanted to, he could turn the city on Batman, and by issue 4, that is exactly what he's done. But then we also see Napier reconnecting with the original Harley Quinn. Don't worry, I'll explain that soon. And he's very apologetic and loving. So I'm always left guessing if the Joker is who Napier truly is and this is all a ruse, or if the Joker's gone, but the motivation that he had lives on in Napier's intentions. And if that's the case, that's fascinating, and really adds another layer of dimension to the Joker's character for me. And finally, in addition to that last point I just made, I think it's really interesting how Napier is just playing the game the same way the other overprivileged Gotham elites are, by buying properties that were ravaged in this low-income neighborhood called Backport and renovating the space for his own personal gain. Except, unlike those other 1%ers, he's not looking to build a condo or anything like that to put more money in his pocket. He's looking to get into the hearts and minds of the people of this neighborhood, and by extension, the rest of Gotham's destitute, by building community centers and libraries and stuff like that. acting like a knight in shining armor for these people, and in doing so, turning them against Batman, the GCPD, and the governing forces that allow Batman and the Bat family to operate in the city unchecked. And I'm not sure if this is the intended message or not, but if it is, I find it hilarious if Sean Murphy is saying that if the Joker wasn't a ruthless criminal, he would be a great politician. Next up, there's Harleen Quinzel, aka the original Harley Quinn. And I absolutely love what Murphy is doing with her character. In fact, this is probably the coolest thing that anyone has ever thought to do with her in the comics since putting her on the Suicide Squad. So for those of you who aren't reading the book and are just watching my review, what John Murphy does here is he establishes that in this universe there are two Harley Quinns. There's the original Harley Quinn from the animated series, and then there's the second Harley Quinn who looks like the one that you've been seeing sold to 15-year-old girls in Hot Topic. And that's not me throwing shade at Hot Topic, I shop there myself, but it pays to be a little self-aware. Anyways, as it turns out, the original Harley Quinn left the Joker after she walked in on him torturing Jason Todd, which I love because one of my complaints with Harley in the comics is that she's too tame of a character to be associated with the Joker of the comics.
You're really sick, you know that, boss?
Because comic book Joker would have either murdered Harley years ago or scared her away, and the latter of which happens in this case. And I think it's such a neat idea. Plus, on a meta level, it's a great commentary on how Harley has changed from being what she was when she first appeared in the animated series, and what she's turned into from the Batman Arkham games moving forward. And speaking of which, that leads me to the second Harley Quinn, aka Marion Drews, aka the Neo Joker. And like I said, Harley is basically a representation of what Harley Quinn has turned into in the greater realm of media, from the Arkham games to the movies, even to the comics currently. And what really draws me to that idea is the potential commentary that Murphy is providing here, where he's saying that whereas the original Harley loved the Joker for the man that she thought he could be, which in this case is Jack Napier, the Marion Drews Harley loved the Joker for the monster that he was. So much so to the point that when he stopped being the Joker and became Jack Napier, she took on the mantle of the Joker just to bait him into becoming the Joker again. And I can certainly understand where he's coming from if that's his argument, because in the animated series, Harley is a Joker apologist, always going on about the man he is on the inside and constantly making excuses for him, much like an abused spouse or significant other would of their abuser. But by the time we get to the Arkham games and the New 52 and the movies, she's just as evil as the Joker is, and the sudden change makes her feel like a completely different character. And Murphy leans into that, which is really cool, and I'm excited to see where the Neo Joker goes from here. Other players in this series are Nightwing and Batgirl, and Batgirl isn't really all that different from the Batgirl that we see in the animated series. She's the right-hand man, or woman, to Batman. She's the good cop to his bad cop. She's Batgirl. There's no really major change for her character so far. But then there's Nightwing. So, when I made my review for the first issue of White Knight, I said that I wasn't a huge fan of this version of Nightwing because he's basically just the Nightwing from the Batman animated series, and I don't like that version of the character.
This is my gig. If I needed you, I'd have called.
Shut your bubblegum dumb looking ass the fuck.
But then we get to issue 3, and my read of his characterization completely changes. So, Dick Grayson Nightwing in this universe was the second Robin, and Jason Todd was the original, which is the reverse for the main DC universe, where Grayson was the original and Todd was the replacement. And it's even hinted at that in this universe, Dick behaved more like the main universe's version of Jason Todd, and Jason Todd behaved more like the main universe's version of Dick Grayson. And for me, that makes his dismissive attitude towards Bruce far more interesting than it was in the animated series, where he was dismissive because Batman started being mean to people, so I left. And finally, there's Duke Thomas, who in this universe is a former cop and an activist for the neighborhood of Backport. And I really like this version of Duke. Not to say that I have anything against the Duke from the main universe, but my big problem with him is that he always felt like a clone of Tim Drake, and that's even worse now where he's the Signal, and honestly, just feels like Tim Drake, but black and with powers. But yeah, in this universe, he's the voice of Backport. He's the representative of this poor ghetto neighborhood that's so bad apparently, the GCPD doesn't even have cops assigned there. but Duke keeps the peace and makes sure the neighborhood is running smoothly. If anything, this Duke Thomas reminds me of what Luke Cage used to be like. You know, before he became Black Mr. Rogers. As for the art, it's still just as fantastic as ever. The colors from Matt Hollingsworth really accentuate Murphy's pencils and inks. Murphy also does a great job of drawing the reader's eye to see what he wants you to see and read the page how he wants you to read it. And I'm sure a lot of that can be attributed to him being the writer as well, so he already knows in his head exactly how each panel should be played out. But he makes a lot of creative choices in terms of panel structure and the position of characters that really control the reader's experience with the book, and that's something that should be applauded. And I know I had a few complaints about the character designs for the first issue, specifically Nightwing and Batman, but I got over that pretty quickly once I started to see the world around them open up. These designs really fit the world that Murphy has created, and I think they work perfectly here. I mean, the fins on Batman's arms without any gauntlets still weirds me out, but that's about it. Plus, I love this Batmobile. This is definitely my favorite Batmobile so far. It looks like a police spinner from Blade Runner, and I just think it looks so cool. Anyways, I am loving this series so far. I think it's a wonderful deconstruction of Batman from the animated series, as well as a great social political commentary on the world as it is right now. And again, I'm really excited to see where this all goes. But what about you? What are your thoughts on Batman White Knight so far? Let me know down below in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel, and if you want to see more content like this, all you have to do is subscribe. I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thanks for watching, and as always, until next time, adios nachos, adios.